Okay, good morning, folks. I believe we're mostly here, at least the stars are here, so we can get started. And we're going to be hearing today from Barbara Wood, Vice President of the Beatitudes Foundation.
I'm Barbara Wood, Vice President of Development here at Beatitudes Campus. And thank you for saving the foundation to the last, the best of all your presentations, I hope. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. I know most of you here. I've been in fundraising for a long time. When I got my bachelor's degree at University of Kansas, my first job was in grants management, where I wrote grants, I managed them. Most of them were for federal government type grants and research and all of that. And I loved it. I found out how much I loved it. And I did that for about 6 years. Then I decided I really wanted to make money, so I did a little stint into the for-profit world, which wasn't satisfying at all. I was I was a financial writer. I worked in publishing. I was a magazine editor for Arizona Business Magazine, and none of that was very satisfying. So I went back into nonprofits, and I became, at ASU, I was in development and fundraising there for the ASU Foundation, and I did the presidential gifts. I worked there for 10 or 11 years, and worked for A.T. Still University doing the same thing, and then I found my calling, and that was to come here. So I've been here. I'm in my 12th year here at Beatitudes, so I'm very happy to be part of this wonderful organization in serving all of you and advocating for all older adults. So thank you for listening to what I have to say. If you have any questions, we'll have a Q&A at the end. But if you have a question while I'm talking, just raise your hand and we'll take care of you. So I have a small but mighty team, one other person besides me, and that's Cynthia Jenkins, and she's our capital campaign manager, which you'll hear about a little bit later. It's a small, but we do an awful lot. So her office is right now in AgeLink. Shortly, she will be moving up to where my office is, which is, I like to say, right across from the beauty salon. In admin, I can tell which days they're perming hair and all of that. And I get to hear all the gossip. That's the fun part. So just a little bit about the foundation facts. We were established in 1991, and it was about the time that the campus's very first capital campaign was beginning. This is during development of the Central Park Apartments. We're a separate 501c3 from the campus. We're governed by our own board of directors. We have our own bylaws. We're completely separate. And the reason why that they set it up is we really wanted an organization to be able to receive gifts and grants and not have it commingled with the campus budgeting process. I don't know if you know, budgeting for a foundation and receiving gifts is a different accounting standard than what you do normally in a business. Oops, there it goes again. I shouldn't kind of lay on this. By the way, the foundation did buy this beautiful, smart thing that we have here. We bought that for the campus about 3 years ago. So we've seen a little bit of changes throughout the 20-odd years that the foundation has been in existence. And at the beginning of the summer, we had this very long strategic planning session that lasted about a day and a half on what is the future of the foundation? What really is our mission? Can we do better? Can we serve older adults in our community better? And so we came up with a little revised mission of the foundation, and that is to enrich the Beatitudes campus community by championing philanthropy, advocacy, and ensuring vibrant, purpose-driven lives for all adults. Now that's pretty encompassing. It's not just about raising money. It's about building relationships in the community. It's about advocating, meeting with lawmakers for issues that are important to the campus and to older adults. Our vision is pretty big and bold. It's a world where older adults thrive in a vibrant, purpose-driven community that embraces innovation, transformation, and continuous support. So really, what is development at Beatitudes? I think you hear the foundation referred to as development, as fund development, and as a foundation. They all mean the same thing. Development is really about using fundraising to build capacity for the campus and sustainability of our programs. It affects a lot of what the campus does, but we're also affected by everything that the campus does. The way the campus goes is how we raise money. The new initiatives that we think about is where we go and seek funds for all of this. But development really is about building relationships. It's about building relationships with each and every one of you. It's about building relationships with organizations, with funding organizations, with other nonprofits, so that we can partner with them to create a bigger and better splash. We do a lot of, when we go out and talk to foundations and other organizations, we always try to see how we can collaborate with them and make a bigger impact on not just the campus and their organization, but also the community. I just did that one. But what is it all about? It's about donors. Donors are people. They're the heart and the soul of our organization. Even when we go to foundations to talk, we're talking to people. We're trying to ignite the spark that they want to help older adults. They fuel every step of our mission, and it's because of donors and donations. They bring our vision to life, and they make change a reality. Without people, none of this can ever happen. And my favorite quote about giving is Winston Churchill: "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." Facts about giving. These are just kind of fun facts that have come out in the past 2 weeks. Arizona ranks 49th in charitable giving in the United States. We're only behind New Mexico. They surveyed every state, and they used 17 different parameters to define what charitable giving is, and part of it is giving, your time and your expertise and your talent. But we rank 49th. We dropped from 48th in a year. But overall in the U.S., the good news is $557 billion were given to charity in 2023. It went mostly to religious organizations as a big group, and that's churches and synagogues and things like that. The next major category was human services, and one of the biggest sectors is to organizations who deal with food insecurity, which I found pretty fascinating. That's where most volunteer hours go to, people donating food and packing up boxes and things like that. I think that's a pretty interesting fact. And overall, the U.S. is 6th in generosity in the world. And interestingly enough, Indonesia is number 1. So those are just a few fun facts to play with. This year, I'll just go through fiscal year 24 that ended September 30th. The foundation was able to gift $1,665,959 to the campus in fiscal year 24. That includes all of our grant funding. That includes some of the restricted gifts that we have that we were able to see reality with it. It paid for some salaries in the healthcare center, in assisted living. It paid for some of our programming. It bought some equipment. We did an awful lot with that money, but we're very, very proud that we were able to give that amount. And of that amount, $338,000 was given to residents here at the campus through our Resident Assistance Fund, which I'll talk about a little bit later too. That's almost the highest mark ever since I've been here that we've given in 1 year. The foundation now holds $1.6 million in assets. Some of those are restricted. We can't just pick them up and give them to the campus. They have specific purposes because we always honor donor intent. So what do we support? We support resident programming, arts program, the community garden, Success Matters, Comfort Matters, all sorts of different programs. We are able to help either provide seed money for them or we can help sustain the programs. We purchase equipment, vitals machines. We've bought a couple of the security golf carts. The ice cream machine, I think we've bought twice in my tenure here. The heating lamps in the bistro. We had a grant for the round-the-block golf cart that you're able to use, and so the foundation secured that grant, and we were able to buy that golf cart. We also bought the man lift machine. I don't know if it's called a man lift or cherry picker. I don't know the words, but we bought that. Transportation program. We're pretty much subsidizing the transportation program here. The foundation itself, not through a grant, but through our assets, bought the big blue bus several years ago so that we could do outings. Residents could, more residents at one time could go places. We also write grants to the city of Phoenix and the MAG, Maricopa Association of Governments is what MAG stands for. And we do grants for preventive maintenance on our fleet of transportation. And we also are able to secure vehicles once we're awarded the grant. And through the generosity of, throughout the years, we've been doing this for 14 years. Throughout the years, the campus has paid matching, we have to do matching funds when we get the vans. The campus is paid in the operating budget early on. The foundation paid matching funds. And then through the generosity of the Beatitudes Auxiliary, they have, for the past 5 years, gifted the matching funds so that we could get these vehicles. The foundation also does renovation of specific spaces. You know, pre-COVID, we did a lot of renovation, new furniture. We renovated lobbies and did all of that. So the foundation paid, I think, over $1 million, $1.2 million to be more precise, in renovation of furniture and the lobbies and things like that. We also, through the generosity of a gift from a family member, paid for the new sound system here in the Life Center and for the lighting that we have here. We also renovated shower rooms in the healthcare center. We did beauty shop upgrades, grounds in the gardens. We help fund all the outdoor furniture that you see by the bistro. Those blue chairs and umbrellas were paid for by the foundation. And we have been able to provide program seed money for Success Matters, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And Uniguest, which we paid for the license, fee of that. And we also paid in the beginning when we first got it, the first year of fees for it, so that we could tell whether it would be a good thing for the campus. And once it became a good thing, then it was able to be sustained by the campus. We have unrestricted funds. It's called the Stetson Family Fund, and it's in honor of one of the families that lived here in the 1960s. And it's a huge area of support for the campus. And it addresses emerging initiatives and priorities of the campus. Having an unrestricted fund, because we always have to honor donor intent. When donors give us money, we memorialize that in a contract if they have it for a specific purpose. But to have something unrestricted, if something comes up, we're able to use that money. If somebody has an idea for a new program, lifelong learning in the very, very beginning had some funding by the foundation. So we work, we have meetings with all the departments here. What are their needs? What are their wants? What are their wishes? What are ways to make life better for our residents? And we brainstorm and we try to figure out, can we get a grant for it? Can the foundation, through this unrestricted fund, provide seed money to look at it? So I went through Uniguest. Some of the equipment that I talked about was unrestricted. Paylocity, which is a brand new program that we use for payroll and for staff communications, that was paid for, the license for that was paid for by the foundation, and the first year of the fees that you have was paid for. We also paid for the first phase of pigeon mitigation last year. I don't know if that money was well spent or not, because I hear we had phase 2, but the foundation didn't pay for that. And we what I think is one of our favorite funds is the Resident Assistance Fund. It helps our residents who have run out of assets through no fault of their own. It could have been that a spouse died. It could have been a health crisis that wasn't covered by Medicare. It just helps people be able to stay here and live in their home, live here at Beatitudes and take advantage of everything that we have to offer. We call it RAF for short, and it's overseen, this fund is overseen by leaders across the campus. We have people from accounting, from the healthcare center, Gabi is part of the committee now from resident services, because everybody has a story to tell. And they can advocate for people. They know things that in an application you just don't put on paper. They know the background stories. And so we meet monthly to go over all the applications that we have. We have criteria to apply for these scholarships. You have to be a resident for 3 years. You have to downsize to the smallest apartment available, usually a studio if we have them available, but we don't want you to incur the expense of a 2-bedroom apartment if there's a 1-bedroom at a cheaper rate. That's kind of the partnership between the resident and the foundation and this scholarship. We also ask people to apply for ALTEX. That's the Arizona Long-Term Care Services Program. It's the Medicaid program for older adults. Very often they can get help through ALTEX when their assets are really deteriorated very much. It's a long, laborious process, but to be able to stay here, we can provide the RAF help for several years for you, but we always should be applying for our state program. And going to the VA, I know that's laborious and horrible, and it's a long process, but we have people here who can help people through that process, and they're able to provide a lot of assistance. And we also ask residents to look into their family. Is there any family support who can help you? Oftentimes there isn't. Sometimes families can support their loved one here for a year, but then they can't after a year. So we'll need to increase the amount of assistance that we give to them because, you know, that fund has gone away. We also have restricted donor-directed funds and grants. These funds are given with a stipulation on how they can be used. They usually come with a time restriction. You have to do it within a certain amount of time. They're given by individual donors and organizations, and as I said before, they're memorialized kind of in a gift agreement, in a contract, that we will do only this with your money, and we will do it by a certain time. Often these are our grants. Those are the ones from organizations. So I've already talked about some of these. The Life Center sound system, that was funded by a family member who had never been to Beatitudes Campus Life Center. But we created a relationship with this family member, and we talked about, because this is when it was really bad, and nobody wanted David in the room because it always screwed up when he was here. But we wanted to have something reliable. And so we talked over a month with this donor and said, this is the community meeting place. This is where not only our residents meet, this is where we hold spiritual life services. This is where the outside community comes in. This would be a shining example of what we want to work well. And this family member gave us the whole entire set of money to do this. It's about building relationships with that family member. Success Matters. That was also funded in the very beginning by a family member who wanted to help people, residents who lived here. Her mother was taken care of. She had passed away about 5 years before we ever talked to this family member, and she still had warm feelings about Beatitudes Campus. And this was such a novel idea at the time. This is, 6 years ago, to have an OT, do something with Success Matters. It just wasn't ever thought of. And through the fearless leadership of David and Tina, we created the program of Success Matters, and now it is just a shining example in all of across the country in senior living organizations of what you can do to keep people safe, to keep people happy, and to keep them engaged. So with this gift that we got from the family member, we were able to pay for the first year and a half of staff salaries, equipment, and all of that for Success Matters. And when we saw that it worked, we were able to put it into our budget. Comfort Matters started in much the same way about 20 years ago. They've received $1.7 million over the past 20 years in grants that we have helped secure, and in the research that goes into that. The monument sign on Glendale, I don't know if any of you remember the stone that used to be on the ground that just said Beatitudes Campus. It was not hardly visible until you passed it by. Well, this family member hated that and said, that's no way to enter the home of my mother. And so we talked to him. He gifted us that monument sign, and gave us also an additional gift so we could sustain the sign. It's electronic, and you know how electronics go. They always wear out. And so anyhow, he gave us that fund to keep it working. Dosha's Garden, which you all see being built over there, was given by Dosha. And Patty's Garden, which is right next to it, which is a little bit overgrown right now, but it's between the Dosha Garden and the healthcare center, was given by the CEO of the HIW Foundation because her mother had Alzheimer's, lived in New York, was in a memory care unit in New York, and the only way when she visited her that she could take her mom outside is she had to cross a busy street to get to the park across the street, and she didn't want that for people, especially those who had trouble thinking. So she gifted us the money to build that garden so that nobody had to cross a street and be afraid. Restricted funds, I'll go through this really quick. The Holly Foundation, it's probably our latest and greatest grant for the community garden. It's for the accessibility of the community garden. Listen for Good was the grant that did the round-the-block golf cart and shuttle service of $40,000. We also just recently, in the past 2 days, also received another grant from Listen for Good, and that's about creating feedback loops for people who have comments about our services, about our programs, and all of that. David is kind of the lead on that one. City of Phoenix and MAG, I talked about the transportation program. Arizona Commission from the Arts, they created a creative aging program, and John and his team were able to use that money to do special programs for residents across our continuum. The Stead Foundation, Mary Joy Stead, they helped fund the beginnings of Comfort Matters, but they also funded a program called Music and Memory. I don't know if any of you know about that, but it is, okay, what did I do? It was for dementia residents, people who had trouble thinking, and we gave each of those residents a playlist. Their family members told us what the music of their life was, you know, whether they like Frank Sinatra or mariachi bands or whatever it is. We would put it on those old iPods, and every resident had their own iPod and earphones, so they could listen to their own music. Piper Foundation, I know a lot of you talked to me about the Piper Foundation. They have been so wonderful to Beatitudes. We have a great relationship with them. They did, way back when Central Park apartments were being thought about, they did the feasibility study. They funded that to the tune of $600,000 or $500,000. They created, when we had Beatitudes Home Help, they helped us get the licensing and all of that to do that. They had a program that they invited the campus to be part of. It's called the Atlas Program, and the leadership of our campus, David was involved in this. We spent a year with the Piper Foundation and some of their experts there talking about capacity building. What is it that we need to be able to move forward? What are our weak points? What are our strong points? It was a really rigorous program, but they ended up, by us identifying our weaker points, we applied for a grant after the Alice program, and they gave us $50,000 to help with that. And they gave us a $50,000 grant for COVID-related expenses. We used them for masks and vaccines and all sorts of stuff throughout COVID. But one of the best things that Piper gave, when they stipulated, they never give unrestricted money. It always is in the form of a grant or a program. During COVID, because they knew the power of nonprofits, they knew the power of foundations like Beatitudes Foundation, every grant that Piper had awarded in the past 5 years before COVID, they completely eliminated all the restrictions on that. You could use it for survival, so to speak, during COVID, because so many, especially the arts programs, so many of the nonprofits were facing demise because nobody could go to the theaters and things like that. And they did that across the board in all of Maricopa County to keep the nonprofit community alive. That was probably the best gift they've ever given to the Phoenix area, Maricopa County. We got a grant also during COVID with the Federal Communications Commission. There was, and it was during COVID when nobody could see anybody and you couldn't hardly talk to anybody. We got a grant for iPads for the healthcare center and assisted living so that people could FaceTime their families with iPads, or they could have remote visits with their doctors because we couldn't go to doctors in person. And they saw a need that we still needed to have continuing health care and engagement in communities. So we wrote a grant for that and got that. BHHS Legacy has also been a longtime partner with the campus. And I don't know if you know, but you know the sewing group that sews all those children's clothing? To date, they have given us $65,000 for material, accessories, thread, all that kind of stuff. All we have to do when we use the money, they give us a yearly grant, and all we have to do is ask for more when we run out of material. They love the campus. In-kind donations, that's another way to give. You can give goods such as computers, furniture, equipment, incentives like gift cards. One of the more fun gifts that we got was from Tito's Handmade Vodka. They called us up and asked us, I see some cheers back there. They asked us, can we use hand sanitizer? This is when COVID supplies were hard. They came within 2 weeks and gave us 2 pallets of hand sanitizer because the Tito's in Texas, they converted some of their manufacturing facilities into only making hand sanitizer during this time. So we get a lot of good help from people. City of Phoenix, they give us pallets of water when we participate in the heat relief program. And then my favorite, community members, they donate purses and wine for Power of the Purse. Without them, we could never have an event. But we also get services and expertise from people. Angel Marketing has been really good to the foundation. They have done, for Power of the Purse, they gift us all the design that they have for that. They brand it differently every year, and they give that to us as a gift. KTAR, they did, I don't know if you heard them this year, for the past 2 years, they've done PSAs about Power of the Purse. They've mentioned it, I think, 14 times before the event. AARP came and they provided, it was for a period over 3 months, they provided caregiver education. City of Phoenix, they waived the permit fees that we had to have when we put on Power of the Purse. And they're like $1,000 every time we put that on. And for 4 or 5 years, they waived those permit fees. And our rental company also has waived fees for certain things. I don't know if you remember when it was, I guess 2 years ago, the years kind of switch in my head, where we had Power of the Purse, so the bistro was closed, and we had to have tents outside for eating. That was event rents, and normally those tents would have cost, for the amount of time that we had, would have cost $10,000 or $12,000, and they cut the fee in half for us because of their generosity. Okay, so let's get to the nitty-gritty. How do we get money? How do we receive funds? Cash, We always accept cash in any form, check, credit card. But there's also very good other ways to do it. Appreciated securities, we've been getting a lot of these lately. Planned gifts, estate gifts, being a beneficiary in somebody's will. We're getting a lot of people who are gifting entrance fees or a percentage of their entrance fees, being a beneficiary on an annuity. Through your required minimum distribution with a qualified charitable donation, a QCD. Next week I have an article about that in the Roadrunner. That's a really good way to help you lower your taxes and be able to give to Beatitudes. Be able to give to Beatitudes. This thing is very touchy. Monthly billing, a lot of you give to the Employee Appreciation Fund, which also flows through the foundation, through your monthly billing statement. It often, doing monthly gifting like that, often enables you to do a larger gift that you couldn't do all at once, but you can do it in parts. Payroll deductions, same thing. We have a lot of staff that give to the foundation through payroll deduction. We get grants, donor advised funds, we get funds from those. Corporate matching gifts. This year, some of our donations for Power of the Purse, they submitted it to their workplace, their corporation, and the place where they work will match that gift. So that's really almost doubling your money. We do fundraising events, and we are embarking on a capital campaign that I'll talk about in a little bit. Power of the Purse. I think almost every one of you here has asked me, how much did we raise? Well, the number keeps changing because we're still getting donations. So right now we raised just on this event $189,830. That's phenomenal, and all of our net proceeds will go to the Resident Assistance Fund this year. We had $110 in sponsorships. We had $10,000 of tickets sold. This is the highest number we've ever had of tickets sold, because usually people come with the sponsorships. You get six seats for, a certain level of sponsor. And residents, you guys, you did fantastic. We had more residents buy tickets this year than any other year. So thank you all very much for that. Day of event proceeds, that's the live auction, the wine, the purses, the silent auction, $60,125. And donations were $9,370. But more important, Power of the Purse is about money, but it's about people. 47 incredible volunteers helped with this event. They were community members. They brought their families. Brophy College Prep was here for 2 days helping us. Beatitude staff spent their weekend with us. Residents did all that. And we had 6 amazing residents, 2 of who are here, who told their stories and were willing to talk about why they're here and what they're doing and why they love Beatitudes campus, so that our auctioneer could play with those stories. 47 bottles of wine came from the board of directors for the campus and the foundation. 2 double magnums came from Morrison. Over 140 purses were donated for this event. I think we used about 100 for that. The remaining 40, we're having a purse sale on Monday, and it's going to be in Age Link. I don't know exactly the times. You'll see it on a slide in the next day or two. Purses that are beautiful and designer, but they're a little more gently loved than you could auction off at a silent auction. And we call it our employee purse sale. We usually sell out all the purses that we have there. We do this every year so that people can buy purses for themselves, for gifts, whatever. And this year we had over $5,000 in donations of gift cards. And they were gift cards to restaurants, to movie theaters, to the Odyssey. There were a lot of arts programs, art theaters that gave us free tickets to events. There were sports tickets. We got a lot of sports swag too. We got signed footballs, signed baseballs, swag, bobbleheads, all that kind of stuff. We asked, they gave. We built relationships with them. They don't do this every year. They don't do it for every nonprofit when you ask. But we have kept relationships up with all these organizations that they want to give. So my final thing that we do that is taking a lot of our time, but I love it, is we are starting a capital campaign here for the campus. We talked about this pre-pandemic, and we had to stop it. We decided to do it. We had to stop it for 2 years, and then we started it again. We did a feasibility study. We didn't know what we really wanted to raise the money for. We had an idea, but we didn't really know. So we hired a firm to do a feasibility study for us. Do we have the capacity to do it? Is there leadership here at the campus to do it? Is there leadership in the community to help us do it? Is the case for support that we presented them strong? And it all came back with a resounding yes. And 3 things emerged. We talked to 47 individuals for this feasibility study. The things that were mentioned the most were comfort matters, success matters, and engagement matters. All the programming that we do here, that came out loud and clear. And so we spoke with those leaders. What is it that will take that program to the next level? What is it that can sustain this program, make it better, make it a beacon among senior living? And we built a case for support, and here it is, $7 million campaign. It's going to be a campaign. We're going to fundraise for 3 to 4 years. People can do pledge payments over a 5-year period. We're just so excited to do it. Right now, we're in our quiet phase, what we call our quiet phase. We're not advertising it. Some of you already know about it, but this might be the first time you're hearing about it now. We're meeting with individuals one by one by one. We're having special gatherings. We're meeting with people after they attend the special gatherings. We're meeting with them one-on-one to answer questions, ask what they want. And we started this at the very beginning of the summer, end of spring, and to date, and this is just from people, not organizations, we've raised over $1 million to get us to this goal. So we're really pleased about that. We have, more importantly, and this is why we've been able to raise $1 million so quickly, we have 100% support from both our boards of directors. We have a campaign cabinet which oversees this capital campaign. They're made up of community members. Residents are part of this. Debbie is part of this, sitting there. And we have 100% support. They think that this is going to take the campus to the next level. We haven't gone out to organizations, foundations, and all of that yet, because most of them want to see us raise 50 to 75% of our $7 million goal. So when we start going out to those organizations, that's when everybody will hear about it. That's when we do staff campaigns and resident campaigns, but now it's just one-on-one. So that's it, and I kind of went over time. I was supposed to allow 15 minutes for Q&A. Any questions?
Oh, do you have a new director for Success Matters?
We've gotten a few resumes and looking at it, but we just haven't found the right person, because this is such a unique program that really takes special skills to do, but we're still looking.
I've mentioned before, but I do think that one of the things that we need here, and probably could be attached to the OT and work in collaboration, is a social worker. They are trained to understand community resources, to do all the financial stuff that Jennifer and Josephine used to do. I think you need two heads going there.
I think you're right. There's a lot of work to do it, and we have been spreading out the work. For instance, the work that Josephine used to do and Alexa after that, we're spreading that out among the staff. I'm even helping people navigate those waters for certain things. It's not ideal yet, but yes, we're in the search for that.
If we didn't have a capital campaign, would we have Success Matters and Comfort Matters?
Yes, we would. We're just able to expand it and start to achieve the next phase of our dream, because they're really good the way they are now, but we can expand it and be so much better. One of the things that the capital campaign is going to do is create what we're calling right now the Thrive House. And that's going to be an apartment here on campus that's fully outfitted with assisted aids, the electronic devices that make life simpler, and all of that, so that people can look at it and try it out, before they spend money on it. We're going to have a lending library of some of the items that we have. We've heard so many stories of, your daughter says you need an Amazon Echo, because we hear stories about, especially from here, we hear stories about how people can call for help on an Alexa Echo device. Well, yeah, they can, but not everybody can. Not everybody can use that. kind of device. So we're going to have a lending library so you can bring it into your home for 2 weeks. And is mom going to use it? Is she able to use it? We can program it for her, but is she even able to use it? If she's not, then the family doesn't have to buy it. If she is, then they can buy it. We don't want people to overspend their money on things that they can't use or won't use. But there's so many different types of assistive devices to make life safer and simpler.
But we all know that the budget is very tight, but the basic salaries of the Women for Success Matters are in that budget.
For the capital campaign or the
No.
campus budget, I believe they are, yes.
Okay, in the very beginning, you mentioned that the foundation has paid some salaries for the healthcare center.
Yes.
How does that work, that they would pay salaries?
It works by the fact that we had some donor restricted funds. I talked about donor restricted funds, and they were for the healthcare center. So we actually called these donors. There were some organizations that were involved in that, and we called the donors and asked them, this is how we want to use the money that you've donated to us over the years. And we want to pay the salaries. Workforce issues have, been really, really hard on our industry particularly. And we want to do the frontline healthcare workers. Are you willing to let us use that money to do that? And we got, that's part of the donor bill of rights. You have a right to know where your money's going. And if you've specified it for the healthcare center or for assisted living in general, we will talk with you and say, is this in accordance with what your wish was when you gave us this money?
Hi. In the engagement part of the capital improvement, what does that really entail? Are we talking about engagement with the neighborhood, and all of that sort of thing, and families? Many times families just never get the right information to start with, even after the person's in here and living here. I run into that a lot. So I was wondering what that engagement part covers.
It covers quite a lot, and engagement really is a part of all three of our pillars, but engagement matters is really about technology. We want to be able to have kiosks around the campus that have the latest Roadrunners, so that when a family member or friend is visiting someone here, they can go to that kiosk and see what's going on. That can create conversation. That can help the resident become engaged. We're going to outfit the rooms where we hold lifelong learning. We're going to outfit those with accessible screens for the vision impaired, improvement for those who can't hear as well, but they're going to be permanent in there. Another technology that we want to do is when we have classes like this, any lifelong learning class, what we want to do is, we all don't feel good every day, and if you're enrolled in a class and you just don't feel good that morning or something has intervened, you can pull that class up on your TV, and hopefully with some of them you can interact real time from the comfort of your home. You don't have to just come to the class. You'll be able to enjoy all the benefits that that class has, but you do it remotely. We learned, and you all taught us during COVID, that you can do an awful lot online. And do classes online. You're the ones who really showed us how possible that was. And so that's one of the things that's going to be part of the engagement matters.
Thanks again, everybody, for your participation. Anyway, thanks for coming.